All right, welcome back to the 5 Minute Trader podcast. And today I want to talk a little bit about amateur trading and how that looks in our views. So let's talk. It's pretty simple, but yet it can be complicated how hugely successful people in any line of business, what are they doing that's any different than those that are trying to be better? Answer is somewhat complicated and pretty multifaceted. So one aspect, though, I want to talk about today is definitely, it comes into play all the time, is in trading. And mindset in trading, as many people discuss, is specifically the real reason behind the difference between an amateur and a professional as it comes to trading. People fall into the amateur status, and the reason is they have the mindset of an amateur. And so here, what are the differences and how they look? There are a lot of differences, and I want to point out as many of them as I can in this podcast. Number one, amateurs stop when they achieve anything. So let's say you have a successful trade or you think it's working. They stop, they take the day off, they take the week off, they take the month off. They think they're all set, they think they've figured it out. Professionals, when it comes to trading, understand that the initial achievement is just the beginning of the process, all right? Number two, amateurs have goals. Professionals, more importantly, have successful processes in place. So we talk about this all the time in trading. If you don't know why you're going to take a trade and where the risk is in the trade, why would you take it? If you don't know why you're getting into it, why you're going to stop, why you're going to take profit, you don't have a process. And this is so rudimentary, but it's so fundamental to being successful as a professional trader. You have to have a process. Number three, amateurs think they are good at everything. Professionals understand they have certain circles of competence. And this is so true in trading. If you make most of your money from the long side and you're really good and you're not as strong trading from the short side, then trade from the long side by all means and look for the setups that follow your process. Again, everything comes back to the process and your circles of competence. Number four, amateurs see feedback and coaching as someone criticizing them as a person. Again, professionals know they have weak spots. I do as a trader, I do as a person. Seek out this thoughtful criticism as a trader to improve yourself and become a professional. Number six, amateurs value isolated performance. So they look at the last 6 months and say, I'm up 15%. And they look at that and then they go, another way to look at this is think about a football wide receiver who catches the ball once on a difficult throw and then drops the pass that hits him right in the numbers every time. So can you catch the ball that's thrown most of the time in your numbers every time, or do you drop it? And can you catch that difficult pass 9 out of 10 times? And the answer is probably not. So don't give yourself unwarranted professionalism just because you made one decent stab and one good trade. All right, next one. And we're on to number six. Amateurs give up at the first sign of trouble. So this happens all the time in trading. You go through a drawdown, and even if your process is in place and you're going through a drawdown, which will happen, they assume, and many people assume and call themselves failures. Professionals see that as part of the natural ebb and flow and as part of the growth and the mastery of becoming a professional trader. So these are key differences. Number seven, amateurs don't have any idea what improves the odds of achieving better outcomes as a trader. Professionals do. Again, benchmarking, establishing what you look at every day and how you look at it, and having this process are going to be key to your long-standing success as a professional. All right, here we go. Number eight, amateurs show up to practice and have fun. I talk about this all the time. If you're trading just for the money, you don't like the game, it's going to become very difficult. So you really have to love the game theory part of it, and realizing that doing the work before the trade happens is really the most important part of where you're going to have success in this business. Number 9, amateurs focus on identifying their weaknesses and improving them. Sounds okay. However, professionals focus on their strengths and finding people who are strong where they are weak to help them. So again, if I am not that smart when it comes to grains, I want to find somebody who can help to understand what's going on in the grain marketplaces before I want to behave in those. So that's where mentorships and working with professionals that can help you is really what true professionals do versus amateurs just identifying, oh, I'm weak here, trying to prove it on their own. All right, number 10, amateurs think knowledge is power, and professionals pass on their wisdom as advice, hopefully that you can use to not have to go through the same steps that many professionals had to get to be able to tell you this. So this is a huge, huge difference. And again, this is part of the reason why we do the 1 Minute Trader and the 5 Minute Trader. We want to share what we know to be truisms about the business as professionals. Number 11, this is so key when it comes to amateurs versus professionals in the trading world. Amateurs focus on being right. And I would say that even when I was a trader early on, I was really focused on, hey, I'm right. I can tell you that, in '99 that we were in a tech bubble. But until you're a true professional when you get the best outcome. So being right and getting the best outcome can be two completely different things. And I've actually went through that myself where, even in my hedge fund, I was right about '08 and '09, again, almost 9 years later, but I had difficulty convincing investors to keep their money for those difficult years until we got to that point where the big payoff came, even though they were making money. So that's the sign of a true professional, is focusing on getting your best outcomes versus being right. I always say, I'd rather make money than be right when it comes to the marketplaces. So keep that in mind also. That's the sign of a true professional. Can you let go of your ego and not care about being wrong, right? And still make money. That's two very difficult and different things. So think about that. Next, amateurs focus on first level thinking. Professionals focus on second level, third level, fourth level derivatives. Again, steps ahead. The professional is thinking, what if? What are the contingencies if this market goes higher, if this market goes lower? How will I behave under those situations? That is much different than the way amateurs think. Think professionally here. Next, amateurs think good outcomes are the result of their brilliance. Professionals understand when sometimes luck plays a bigger factor. This is so true in the trading world. I can't tell you why a market's going to go up and down most of the time. However, I can recognize when I just got lucky, and if that happens to be the case, I sometimes will just exit a position, even though it wasn't what I thought it would happen, and I may have been lucky and made some money. I will recognize it, I'll acknowledge it, and move on. It has nothing to do with me, and there's such a fine line in this business between having ego to take risk, but then understanding that you really have no control over the outcomes. So risk control is really all you can control, and that's again a big difference for professionals versus amateurs. Next, amateurs obviously focus on short term. This is why so many people day trade, because they think, oh, if I can just make $1,000 a day, where they're not really looking at the big picture and focusing on how can I be successful over a week, over a month, over a quarter, over a year. So just having a couple day trades is really a fool's game. When amateur and people start talking that way, I can tell you that they're generally amateurs. Very few professional scalpers out there. It's a very difficult line from short-term success to long-term day trading success. So focus on the long term, not on what happens each day, each trade. Focus on the long term. Am I developing a process that can be successful? Amateurs focus on tearing other people down. Professionals, we hope to make everybody better. Again, I was talking about this with Victor Niederhofer the other day. He was talking about, beating some of the best players in the world in squash, which was unbelievable. And when he got beat, he would actually, or when he would beat the guy below him, that guy would often root against him. I'm more of the opposite mindset. I want to root for the guy who beats me. I want him to be the champion. That way I can feel like I've bettered myself by playing the person who was the best. So it's as Victor said, you can take the heroic approach, or you can take the pessimistic approach and root against your competitor. So that's a key thing. Okay, amateurs like to look for decisions made by groups or by some software, so they can blame if things go wrong. And this happens all the time in trading. Let me back test, and then I think I have the Holy Grail, and then when it goes wrong, I blame it on the Holy Grail. Again, professionals just say, I made a mistake. Whether it was a back test or a different trade idea, accept the responsibility, fix it if it needs fixing, discard it if it's not working, and just accept the responsibility of the risk and move on. This is key to being a professional. So amateurs, again, they tend to blame others and other outside factors. Professionals just say, took a bad trade. It happens all the time. If you can't accept that the imperfectness of this business is real, you will fail dramatically. Amateurs show up inconsistently. Professionals show up every day. I say this again, in trading and in any business. Have to have a schedule, have to know when you want to behave, how you're going to behave, and do it consistently over and over again. Show up at the same time, have a routine. Without it, you're not a true professional. I mean, why do you think baseball players show up 8 hours before they play the game? Because they have routines and practices to get ready for the game. So there are a lot of other differences, but I think all these amateurs versus professionals for traders that I broke out for you comes down to two things. Fear. Are you run by fear? Then you're an amateur. Or are you run by reality, which is I accept responsibility for failure and for success. That's the simple black and white line for me. Are you run by fear, or can you handle the reality of the situation? Amateurs believe that the world should work the way they want it to. Professionals realize when it comes to trading, they have no control except for factoring how can they define risk. Amateurs, therefore, are scared to be vulnerable and honest with themselves. Professionals feel like they are capable of handling anything, and they take it with a little grain of salt. Luck aside, which approach do you think is going to have the best long-term results? So if you find yourself behaving like an amateur, yet you're a professional, notice it, be aware, move back to the professional says. What's holding you back? Let us help you here at the 5-Minute Trader. We'd love to help you. Sign up for the daily videos if you're not already. And if you'd like one-on-one consulting, drop me an email, Matt@OneMinuteTrader.TV. Love to help you work through this process. It's very, very prevalent. And again, first step is acknowledgement. All right. Take care. Have a great day. We'll talk to you on the other side.